Any other questions? I see a gentleman at the back. Is there a person with a microphone anywhere near him, or?
Okay, I'm Richard. That could come under consolidation, but I've seen a lot of hype, both in the software and hardware industry, about virtualization. Mm.
Sorry, so the question is, in terms of virtualization, what?
A virtualization of software or hardware.
Yeah.
That means less CPUs. You could get a few operating systems on one system.
Yes. No, I know what virtualization is. I'm not sure what the question is.
You didn't talk about it.
Oh, okay. Yes, as I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I have 4 kids. My son is 16 and barely talks, and somebody asked me kind of what about your youngest, and I said, getting her to talk isn't the problem. Getting her to shut up is the hard part. So getting me to stop talking about virtualization is the hard part. So virtualization, it's been around 3 or 4 years. Obviously, VMware's recent acquisition of, I'm blanking on the name, somebody help me out here. Was it Zynga? Sorry? Zimbra. Zynga's they all come up with very slightly different names. So they're now getting very, very hard into the email space. So virtualization of email. Once again, obviously putting it sort of to some extent out in the cloud. So virtualization is closely tied with our cloud computing prediction, but it also ties in with our thin client prediction for this year that I didn't even get into. So virtualization growth has moved from hundreds of percent 2 or 3 years ago to, I think, a pretty sustainable 30 to 40%. I think virtualized machines, both at the hardware and at the software side, remain important. Control of those, managing that virtual architecture is difficult, but it is a growth area, and I think it will continue to be a growth area. Simply, the economics make quite a bit of sense. Where we think it does change is the virtual desktop machine. These are thin clients. So essentially dumb boxes that sit on your desk. They don't have hard drives. They barely have any software at all. We are seeing some of the larger companies, banks and so forth, contemplating moving towards a thin client. Some of you may remember thin client architectures from 2000. Scott McNeely at Sun Microsystems talked about them a lot. Didn't happen back then, but their time may be more right now. So virtualization, it's not 400% growth, but 30 to 40%. It has its challenges, but I think it's going to continue to be a key technology for 2010 and beyond. Do we have any other questions? Let's take one more, and then I'm going to hand it over to Robert to close us off here.
So we have a few questions from the web. Hi.
Hi, Kathleen. Sorry, there's online questions as well.
Okay.
Back of the line and online.
Okay. So this question is about, what is your point of view about the rumor around Financial Times paid content to review?
Financial Times content already is behind a paywall.
Okay.
The Financial Times, I think they're referring to the New York Times moving to the same model. So just so we're clear, the Wall Street Journal has a paywall. In order to read one article, you got to sign up. The Financial Times, you get 10, I think it's 10 free articles a month. The rumor is, that came out of Newsworld in the United States, no, I can't remember where it came from. Anyway, there was a story, and it looks like the New York Times is going to use the Financial Times model. You get 10 free articles a month, and if you want more than that, then you have to pay, and you have to get a subscription.
Okay, we have another one around gaming. This person was surprised to see that you didn't talk about gaming today. So what is the consequence of video games in the context of e-learning and the sharing of knowledge for the new generation? So will people learn in a new way? And we're talking about young kids.
So we actually made prediction about that 3 or 4 years ago. And obviously, as part of Deloitte, not only do we have to come up with predictions, we have to come up with different predictions. You know, if I want to boost my score, that whole sun rises in the east is going to be, every year. It's a good one. So gaming's good. Actually, before we get to gaming as e-learning, let's take back a step. A lot of people going into here's a prediction I missed. Going into the recession, a lot of people said gaming is immune to recessions. Even in recessions, people will spend lots of money on games because we'll amuse ourselves. That did not happen. Gaming stocks, gaming revenues across the industry saw, I think in one quarter, 16% year-over-year decline. So that's new. Gaming used to be recession resistant. It may not be anymore. Gaming is a learning, so that would have been a great prediction that I didn't make. The gaming as e-learning, we're seeing some of that. One of the challenges is that there is a tendency, I'm not going to talk about teaching children. I think that's a great idea. I'd like to see more of that. I think we already are. As I say, I've got kids at school. They already do some learning that sort of way. Where I think it becomes more interesting is the idea of e-learning from large corporations. And the example I would use of this is companies like IBM and Cisco buying islands in Second Life, thinking that this was going to be a great way to train their employees. The only thing is that it kind of is goofy if you're IBM to say to your employees, okay, I want to teach you how to use our new software, but would you mind being represented as a 14-foot dinosaur while you do it? It didn't enhance the learning experience in any, it was a new technology, it wasn't a useful new technology. Making it into a game didn't make the e-learning aspect any better. So that's my challenge, is more about training adults. Does using games work any better than sitting them down in front of a normal web TV kind of facility? Anything else from online, Kathleen?
We have a lot, but we can take it
No,
afterwards.
sorry, no or?
Oh, I can ask another one. In terms, still around gaming, in terms of marketing, how will advertising in gaming, how will it evolve?
More and more. Sorry, this is a trend. It'll keep being a trend. You're going to see much more in-game placement. You will also see pre-rolls. You'll see ads. So lots of ads with our games. It essentially becomes not unlike pay TV. So when you get a pay TV channel, it still has ads on it. And I think we're going to see that. I think the one lesson from the last 2 years is if you are in media, if you can have both the subscription and an advertiser revenue stream, that's the best of all possible worlds. So I think that's where we're going to see. Gentlemen here, do you want to just yell it before we get through? Or?
Sure. Can you discuss the evolution of the relationship with carriers and mobile apps and mobile content? Do carriers start to get into the game of mobile content, or are they just a pipe where you go on, log in somewhere else?
And I'm going to repeat the question for the online Ustream viewers. So the question was asked, what happens between apps and carriers? What about on deck versus off deck? Does Apple disintermediate the carriers? What's Google doing with that? And it even gets more complicated than that because it ain't just apps. You bought a BlackBerry from Verizon? Huh, I didn't know my preferred choice for search was Bing. Not only is my preferred choice for search Bing, I can't even install Google as a choice for search. So there's a lot of walled garden versus open, people paying for placement. So the reason I didn't make a prediction on that one is we don't know. At Deloitte, we have a giant piece that came out in November from our US firm that talks about this, and it makes some predictions in the area that frankly, I think I'm not sure about yet. So I think it's going to be a battle. The carriers want to do anything in their power to avoid becoming a big dumb pipe. Therefore, they want to have control over who does search, what apps are there. Can I drive money out of the apps? Meanwhile, you've got the developers of the apps. Then you've got the hardware manufacturers. I think the honest answer is that it's a complete mishmash, and I don't think anybody really knows who's going to win. But it's an interesting battle to watch. So I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to try predicting things that are that hard. So on that note, I'm going to call Robert Nardi back up, which is the fabled closing room. OK, we're fighting over who gets to control it.